I'm Terry Sacka, and this is Rigged Against You. Today, we're going to talk about a countdown to catastrophe and collapse. But before I get going, please understand, this is not about fear. I did not give you a spirit of fear, but of power, dunamis power, love, and a sound mind. And that's what we need to focus on. This is not about fear. It is about preparation. It is about communication between you, your family, your neighbor, your community, your friends. Just understand we're entering a fourth turning. And what is a fourth turning? If you go back 80 years, it's a really interesting cycle. But when you go back 80 years, we have had dramatic transformations of society every 80 years. We go back to World War II, the Civil War, 1776. It's almost astonishing and creepy. Our world is entering a fourth turning, not just the United States, but the world itself. Not just the rise of BRICS and 159 countries now joining a multipolar, multi-government control world where the United States and Europe are left behind. It's way bigger than this. So I'm going to outline a little bit about what's really going on right now so you can understand what the fourth turning is about, how it's playing out. Things are moving at breakneck speed, literally. Just stuff happening every day, and it's getting whitewashed and set aside like it's no big deal. Major events are taking place right now, and it's happening so fast. We are on the precipice of this fourth turning event taking place. I don't know what direction we go. I just hope we, the people, choose the right one so we can be preserved. But here's basically where it breaks down. Fourth turning in the countdown to crisis, catastrophe, and collapse. Now, I want to give this a shout out to him, Jim Quinn of the Burning Platform blog. He really laid out a brilliant piece. I've been talking a lot about the fourth turning, but he did a very good job of laying this out. But the fourth turning is kind of complicated, but it's not. It's a unique cycle. And what's interesting is George Orwell, for those that have not done it, George Orwell has a book, 1984. He wrote this a long time ago. And he says all tyrannies rule through fraud and force. Once the fraud is exposed, like right now, they must rely on exclusively on force. We're starting to see this take place. I've gotten into this before about what this is going to mean, but it's the end of freedom as we know it. Now, again, let's not take this as fear, but if you were prepared with food, your assets, I would absolutely have gold and silver outside the system right now. If you understood the great taking, if you understood your unsecured status as in all of your assets, stocks, bonds, and currency, you would have gold and silver outside the system. I would go to Cornerstone Asset Metals. Stay away from the big gold companies. If they have gold in the name of the company, 9 out of 10 times they're new. They're just gouging. It's just not the way to go. But we are on the verge of losing our freedom. And this fourth turning is laying it out. Now, I'm going to kind of move through this, but it will explain the bigger picture to you. And at the end of this, I think you'll understand the importance of at least having the conversation. Again, not being overly concerned. Well, I that's probably the wrong word because I'm trying to get away from the word fear, but we better be awake because I think we should be changing habits and we should be preparing because this is coming whether we like it or not. But here's the beginning of it. The future, this is from Frank Herbert, Dune. I thought this was a pretty interesting quote too. The future is becoming muddled. The lines of vision are narrowing, but now they're desperate. All paths lead into darkness during this desperate period. And it's not just the Ukraine war. It's not just the Israel. It's all together. Even the BRICS are playing a very crucial role in breaking down the world order as we know it, in the United States being the leader. We're not only losing the reserve currency status, and I get it, for those that want to step back. Oh, the dollar is still strong. Everything's fine. But it's really not underneath if you understood it. And here's the thing. Are you willing to take a chance that tomorrow you wake up and the next big one drops? Because this gets deeper than you think it does. So here we go. Trying to decipher already becomes more than a day by day. We are purposely bombarded with misinformation, disinformation, and propagandably the ruling class designed to distract us from the real purpose, the real agenda, and the real plans to imprison us in their techno gulag, eating bugs in our container-sized hovels, using our government-issued CBDCs to subsist, unless we dare question the approved narrative, resulting in our social credit rating dropping into domestic terrorist zone, getting us banned and shunned from society. This is the New World Order, and the Davos crowd has designed it and will implement it as a great reset if they succeed. We talk a lot about the Great Reset. This is as real as it gets. They know. And why is it? I don't know. Maybe the earth is getting to that point where we're at tribulation period. I'm not so sure. I believe the West, though, is so financially collapsing. We need a new system. We need a new currency. And I think in the middle of having to retool a new financial system, they don't want to lose world dominance and world control. Who's they? The United States and NATO. They've held on to it since World War II. And we literally on the verge of losing all the power and control that we had. And it's that close. Everything is being controlled. Censorship is out of control for a reason. And this is why. Because the fourth turning is upon us. Fourth turnings never de-intensify. You have to understand the Revolutionary War, the Civil War, or World War II, the Civil War, 1776. These are major things. They never de-intensify. There will be blood and death and war at an enormous scale before this crisis is resolved. We're already seeing it, but our media is not telling you the true nature of the death that is going on in Ukraine and Russia and Israel and other parts of the world. The next 6 months, probably, I say 6 to 9, but the next 6 months will determine the course of humanity for the next century. And that is what the fourth turning is. We are getting ready to turn into something radically different. We are either going full-blown slave state, Marxist communist, as the Democrats want to take us, or we the people choose a reprieve and have freedom to make these choices for ourselves. But we've got to do this through changing the laws. And we can't do that if we cannot control the powers, the Senate, the Congress. We need to get an overwhelming majority of Republicans. And I don't really have a whole lot of confidence in Americans at this moment. But if you're out there and listening, I would be talking to 10, 12 people that you know maybe go thinking differently, even if they're not going to vote because they don't like anybody. Let them understand this big picture is more than you think. Here's a great quote here. Check this one out. This is from Admiral James Stockdale. You must never confuse faith. And here's where the Christians are getting off because they just go, oh, everything's going to be fine. God has us. God gave us authority over all the power of the enemy, gave us the Holy Spirit. But don't confuse faith that you will prevail in the end, which you can never afford to lose, with the discipline to confront the most brutal facts of your current reality wherever they might be. And that current reality is our fourth turning that's coming upon us. And this election just happens. I don't really like the politics, but unfortunately, It is actually important because one would take us to that direction of full globalization, one world order. The other one will not. That's why I'm not so sure they're even going to allow it to take place. But let's just pray and hope that we do get some reprieve, right? Lenin had a great quote. There are decades where nothing happens, and then there are weeks where decades happen. This is the fourth turning here. Applied, it has been the 6 weeks since the deep state invisible government attempted to assassinate President Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania. The events have been happening at a breakneck pace and it's difficult to determine which incidents are being engineered and which are occurring naturally. Most people aren't even talking about it. They're not talking about the fact that the US national debt has reached 35 trillion and it's going parabolic, meaning straight up financially. And this is what I truly believe is the reason this is happening. Financially, the West is done and they need to hang not only on to power, but in order to hang on to power, they're going to have to control the behavior of the people. But this is a big deal because we're in trouble financially and our debts in the West show that. We can just look at the inflation. The top is the 1990s way of measuring it. We started manipulating at that time. Below is the 1980s measurement of how we measured inflation. That's when we were honest. Look at 1980s. We are still near 12% real inflation. And for those that haven't paid attention, the mainstream media doesn't tell you that, do they? They say, oh, we're around 3%. That's why they're going to lower interest rates. It's all a complete rigged against you lie. Inflation is through the roof. Now, why they can't do anything about it and tell you the real number one, politically, it doesn't look very good. But two is because they can't afford to pay the cost of living adjustments to things like Social Security. So there's a lot more of why they're not telling you the truth, and mainly political, but it is deeply financial because they just can't afford it. But let's not forget, this was a huge event. You even have mainstream media and those on the left trying to say, I know someone showed Alexa that I don't have any of those things in my home. But if you ask it if this even took place, Alexa actually says it did not. This was a huge event. They wanted on live TV his brains being blown out right before the convention so they could put in a puppet on the right side because they knew Biden and Harris are a complete and utter disaster. And they failed. They tried the same narrative as a lone gunman, but yet all of the evidence is being suppressed. They're lying about it all. And man, is this creepy. I mean, you want to talk about God saved by a fraction of an inch? This was going to transform the world as we know it. I don't think it's over, but this is not cool in any sense of the word. But this is what fourth turning events are about. Major radical events. Do you hear about the assassination much anymore? No, it was huge. We still talk about the Kennedy assassination decades and decades later. That's how big of a deal it was. And yet there's so many things going on right now. It's moving too fast. And most people, they just blew right over this like it was no big deal. Well, I bet it would have been a big deal if it worked, wouldn't it? But this is how big it is. Right now, the other major development over the last, so think about this, in just the last several weeks, is the fact that we're actively fighting a war with Russia. Everyone knows we provided a couple $100 billion, which, by the way, could have transformed our complete electric grid. We could have done so much in this nation, but we didn't. Hundreds of billions of dollars in military aid to Zelensky in Ukraine, which is essentially funneled to U.S. arms dealers after Zelensky and his Nazi parachicks take their cut, right? But the invasion of Russia, now they're invading Russia, and the pinpoint drone attacks on bridges oil refineries, nuclear power plants, and other civilian targets have been conducted with U.S. hardware, U.S. logistical planning, and U.S. drone operators. We are at war with Russia. And I tell you, Russia is the coolest cat I've ever seen. Putin is so cool. He knows, and he's buying his time, hoping this nightmare ends. And people say, well, he invaded. No, go study World War I. We forced him to invade. They were bombing and killing Russians. It was unbelievable. It started in 2014, but I'm not going to get into that right now. I'm just showing you major events that are taking place right now in the fourth turning cycle we're in, and why we're facing so much catastrophe and so much calamity. We just have to kind of step back. I say, hey, barbecues, be at peace. Just do what you can, do the right thing, and be with your friends and community and church, but stay focused, because Ukraine, the U.S. is now fighting a proxy war with Russia, and they are the largest nuclear power. Not good. So I don't know what's going to happen in the coming months, but I do know it will not be uneventful. We've been talking about this coming. I've been talking even for years. Something's setting up. Something isn't right. It's in front of us. Fourth turnings always intensify towards violence, upheaval, death, destruction, and clear winners and losers. No matter the outcome of this election, violence will follow, as the losing side will not accept defeat. I expect the potential civil war to be coupled with global conflict as we travel towards some type of climax. No matter how prepared you think you are for the dreadful challenges ahead, the level of violence likely to overwhelm the world will be shocking, disconcerting to even the most hardened and toughened individuals. Is anyone really prepared for their bank accounts to be drained by shadow entities, empty grocery store shelves, the power grid being down, attack from within and from without, and hordes of armed gangs like we're seeing right now roaming the streets and the countryside? This is the beginning of what the fourth turning is. These are just a handful of the events that are facing us right now. And these are huge. We're not even talking about the financial collapse that should be happening right now, but they are faking it and keeping it propped up. Why your assets are in such danger, the money in the bank, your stocks and bonds, you are collateral to the debt of the financial system. And I've contended for a long time that this is being orchestrated. How it turns out, I don't know. We better pray for grace of God on this. But we are seeing huge events take place. And I'm not even getting into the whole BRICS. Most of the nations in the world now go into the BRICS unit of currency, 40% backed by gold. If you don't think it's important to own gold and silver outside the system right now, you're going to wake up and wish you did. And even certain cryptocurrencies I'd be looking into. And I know it gets complicated, but there's plenty of video and educational material on how to get involved in that. But get out of the system. Get protected, at least until we see what trees are standing after this forest fire is over. Again, let's not operate in fear. Let's have wisdom and understanding be with us. Have peace in our heart and our soul, and be sure to love on and be there for those who are experiencing fear. And let's be there together from the community first, or family first, community, and then up. If we do that, we can get through what is in front of us. But this fourth turning event, you're not stopping it. We are not going to stop it. It's going to happen. And before it's over, it's going to get a lot uglier. All we can hope for is what's on the other side. We can only hope for we the people to prevail and peace and harmony to come back. So until next time, God bless you.
With all of the recent changes in the political and financial markets, there has never been a better time than right now to invest in silver and gold. When governments simply print billions of dollars in paper money in hopes of solving financial shortfalls, you know that it is time to buy and hold assets of true and lasting value. Free information is available to you right now by calling 888-747-3309. Whether you are a new investor or you're interested in preserving the value of your retirement accounts, we make it easy for you to make smart decisions for your financial future. The specialists at Cornerstone are here to serve you, work to satisfy your retirement goals, and communicate with respect. Call us right now at 888-747-3309. That's 888-747-3309. Or visit us online at cornerstoneassetmetals.com. That's cornerstoneassetmetals.com.